All right. Well, welcome everyone. I'm so tickled to death to see you here tonight. Welcome to the new year. It is a new opportunity to get in there and kick some butt and take names or even just take down pink slips, whichever way I like. So today, the topic is the danger of job search. So let me share my screen. And I think this will be an engaging discussion for everyone. Oops. So can you all see my screen? Yep. No? Okay, good deal. Awesome.
All good.
So the question is, why is this not? And let me go back to the start of this. So the topic is today is the danger of job search. So finding opportunity by maximizing the amount of change that you inject into your job search. That's the topic. And so the first question is what are examples that you've seen that were successful or not successful in your job search where you can improvise, adapt, and overcome? So there's a famous quote by John F. Kennedy, which says that there's a Chinese pictogram or ideogram for crisis. And one part of it is danger, the other part of it is opportunity. So in a crisis, be aware of the danger, but recognize the opportunity. And that's a wonderful quote. I really like the concept there. The unfortunate part is it isn't exactly true. It as you can see, I got highlighted from the Wikipedia, right, is the actual Chinese ideogram means something more like change point rather than danger or opportunity. So that's a more correct interpretation of it. But for our purposes, I think it's ideal because one of the key things that we can control in anything really, but particularly job search, is what are we going to change? And so if you're thinking, something's not working in your job search, the question becomes, what can you change to change your results? And of course, the favorite quote that I used quite a bit was, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. And so actually, Rebecca had referenced this in her presentation a couple of weeks ago. So we're tying into that. But here's one of my favorite quotes from Gunnery Sergeant Hightower: improvise, adapt, and overcome. And I think when we start applying these lessons to our job search process, we start to realize that we have a lot of opportunity. And so going back to that symbol, the Chinese ideogram for crisis is crisis. Oops, sorry. I keep forgetting that I'm not in paint view. Crisis is a mixture of danger and change or opportunity, right? But if we want to focus on the change, we take crisis and minimize the danger. So if we think of crisis as our job search, and how do we minimize or remove the danger of any changes that we want to make through relationships, connections, friendships, knowledgeable experts, taking advantage of experience of others, right? This is how we can minimize the danger of just pell-mell change and then get something focused that's going to help us deliver a result that we want faster. And so that brings us to this portion. Oh boy, that is really tough. That brings us to the discussion portion of this is, and I'm going to minimize my screen here in a second, but I pulled this 3 bullet points of what we can change, improvise, and overadapt from a financial blog, where they said, number 1, focus on what you can control. Number 2, be willing to make course corrections. And number 3, and I think this is an important critical part, be open to opportunities that arise. So that opportunity could be being told about a new job search group, or being told about an opportunity that might be a fit, Um, so it's a matter of focusing in on opportunities there that are maybe present themselves once we've made our change correction. So I'm done talking with the formal presentation. This is the part where we contribute for each other. What are examples that you've seen in maybe your job search or others where we can improvise, adapt, and overcome? What parts of the process do we control? I'll actually start this and warm it up. Before I got my job at the Workforce Center, I thought I knew what I needed to know when I got laid off in 2007. And I know how to write a resume. So I'm like, that's all I need because it's all online. So I can just apply online with the best of them. And when that didn't work, I went, well, I must not be applying hard enough. So I decided to change how hard I was applying. So I applied harder. Instead of applying to 2 or 3 jobs a day, I applied to 4, 5, or 6. And some of you have done those corporate websites. That's about an hour per process, minimum. And so when that didn't work, I got even harder. I may have foregone showering and personal hygiene to sit at the computer occasionally to make sure that all the applications got done. So I applied even harder. Well, that went on for about a year. And when that finally didn't work, and I finally admitted it to myself, and I think that was a key turning point, I actually went and decided that I needed to do something different. So I said, I don't know what that is, but it's got to be not sitting at this computer. And so what I came up with was I decided to do these, you might have heard of these brown bag workshops where vendors will come in and present on a topic and it's a free lunch. Well, I didn't have money to give them a free lunch, but I'm like, you can bring your own lunch. You can make it a brown bag. And so I was going to present on any topic that anybody wanted. I actually wasn't intending to present. I made up a flyer so I could go around and talk to people. And I'd hand this flyer to the receptionist and say, who would be willing to hear this? Would that be somebody in HR or IT maybe? And the lady said, I don't know, let me call HR and find out. So she dialed up HR and the lady said, okay, yeah, I'll talk to him. And so give him my number. So the lady goes, here's HR's number. And I was so shocked that I didn't follow up with it. No, I was so shocked that I was like, when I walked out of there, I'm like, I should have asked for the IT manager. I should have done this with the IT group, not for HR. What am I thinking? I was so dumb. But the point being is I changed something and got a different result. That's what I was looking for. And so all I wanted to see was I going to get a different result other than go to the website? And it worked. Being adapted to change is what worked. So as you're thinking about your job search process, what's maybe changed for you that worked for you that you want to share with the rest of the group?
I can talk a little bit about this because I'm kind of in the job search right now. But one of the things that I've noticed is I wasn't getting a whole lot of hits on my resumes. And like I said, I don't know if this works or not yet. But so what I did was kind of take my resume and send it out to some friends I have that work in, corporate settings or HR. And they all sent back like their revisions and kind of what they would tweak to it a little bit, what they would like change. And that kind of helped me focus a little bit more, like some of the common things that kept coming up, change this verbiage, change this over here to this. And I don't know if it's worked yet, but I suppose we'll see. But it's one way to kind of adapt a little bit.
I love it. Being dynamic, that's cool. Other thoughts or feedback for the group that you found that might work or wonder if it works? Thank you for sharing that, Jacob. Tim, you've got a great adaptation story, don't you?
How much time you got? I guess, for me, it's a little bit of an adaptation, but a little bit off topic, but I'm good at that. But aren't I, Rebecca? So, I'm in my later 50s and I'm looking at changing a career field. That's, the prospect is pretty daunting, and Rebecca helped me through that process. But I was open to just about everything she had to say, except for the Eagle Group initially, to be honest with you. Wasn't I, Rebecca? Is
Yeah,
that
at
true?
first you're a bit of a holdout at first.
I was a little
I
bit of a
wore you
holdout.
down. I
She
wore you
kept
down.
at me. She kept at me, and Rebecca has helped me out tremendously. I appreciate everything. But I've said this many times about the Eagle Group. I guess where I'm going with this is you don't know what you're missing until you actually try something. I guess that's not quite the right way to say it, but once I got into the Eagle Group, boy, you guys had a lot of fantastic ideas, and there was so many of them. I came to the meetings, and one of the biggest ones that I can't remember who said that, which one of you guys told me to put together a 90-day plan for the interview? Who was that?
Yeah.
That was Renee. Holy cow. That was a big deal. That's a county commissioner that asked me that type of question. And I was ready for it. I was excited. I was ready for it. So there's so many different areas I could go into here, but
That's cool.
what I was getting at is, changing your career field when you're in your later 50s is not easy. And I had applied for a leaver position down in Rochester, and I didn't get it. I was pretty bummed out, and I was thinking, well, maybe I think I even sent an email to Rebecca saying, I need to rethink things. Didn't I send something like that? Or
Yeah, you said, I think I need to go in a different direction. That's what you said. Yep.
yeah, because I wasn't feeling very confident about myself, and I really thought that leaver job was going to be it. You just never, and Rebecca continued to encourage me and apply for jobs. And we talked about different jobs, and the one in Litchfield came up, and I was thinking, well, that's a little bit far away, but I'll just apply for it anyway. That's what we always ended up at, just apply for it anyway. And wow, that was just something I thought that that was out there. And from the time I got to my first interview at Litchfield, to the second interview, it was just like it kind of felt like I was home, and over something I wasn't even going to apply for initially. I didn't even really, it wasn't in my, I wasn't thinking I wanted to live down there, but when I got there, I instantly felt comfortable. So I guess where I'm going with this is, don't cancel anything out right away, because you never quite know.
Okay.
And for me, that was absolutely the case. I got there, and from before my first interview, I stepped out of the car at the gas station, and this is going to sound weird to say this, but I instantly felt at home. The people were friendly. It was very similar to the town I grew up in. And I got to the first interview. I didn't even feel like I was getting interviewed. Even the second interview was like that. Everybody friendly. I mean, I had 5 different people interviewing me the second time. And I didn't feel nervous once. But going back to what Renee had said about the 90 days and everybody else giving me different ideas, it gave me a lot of confidence. And just to think that I wouldn't even have this job if I hadn't I hadn't applied for it, because I was thinking that, hey, you know what, it's too far away. And it just turned out really well for me. I know that was long-winded.
You're in luck, because Renee is going to be doing a presentation on 30, 60, 90-day plans soon. So
you are.
Yeah.
So.
And I just have to say, Tim, you did such a great job. I enjoyed our conversations so much, and you were always so open to any suggestions that I had. But I have to say, the 30, 60, 90-day plan the outline that I sent you came from this book by George Murray, who is definitely a friend of Eagle Group. And I recommend, if you don't have this book, that you connect with him on LinkedIn and post his LinkedIn connection in the chat box. But he will happily walk people through. He's more than willing. I think he has on his link, he posts a ton of stuff on LinkedIn, but I think he actually posted that you can call him any day between, I don't know, 6 and 7 a.m. or whatever.
Okay.
And he will help walk people through any question or any insight that you need into the job search process. And, you know, he's been on our calls several times, and he's just an all around good guy, I have to say, since this is being recorded.
Yeah.
I would say
Oh, that's
that
right.
even if it wasn't.
I forgot it was being recorded and I went extra long-winded. Sorry, crowd.
You're all good.
Anybody who's watching this, but in reality, you know, just don't discount anything just because you think you may not be interested in. And when I got there, like I said, I was just like, man, this feels right. This is it. This is really felt like that from the very beginning. I know I'm saying that after the fact, but that's what I truly felt like when I got there. For the first interview, through the second interview, through meeting the technician, the secretary at the Veteran Service Office from Meeker County, and it was really good to be in a place where you felt so comfortable that it didn't even feel like an interview. But a lot of that was because of the 30, 60, 90 days and all the other information you guys had given me, and I really dug in. You know, when I felt like that, it gave me more incentive. When I felt really comfortable, it gave me more incentive to really dig into it more than I had in the past for jobs. And that, I think that was part of it too. Just feeling more comfortable and prepared as much as you can. So.
Very good. Well, thank you, Tim, for sharing that.
I have
Other
a
areas of
suggestion for
improvisation?
your thing. Hang out with a miracle worker. That's an
Thank you,
inside
Stephen.
joke because when Alan was at the Workforce Center, that was his byline. He was a miracle worker. And Alan is the
Yeah.
one who got me my job at the Workforce Center when I started there.
Well-
I see nicknames coming here. Miracle Worker, DevOps 2.0. We got to work. There should be some nicknames for most everybody here, I think.
I think we got a Justice League forming, Justice League of Job Search.
Yeah.
You know, I'll tell you, that is one of the things that I got the adaptation because of the way I presented resumes and stuff, was to help people find their sense of purpose and balance and value and self-worth in the job search. And somebody said, you're that miracle worker that's able to change people's lives in 5 minutes. And the reason why that was a problem for me was because I had just got done telling a client in a session, when somebody says, you know, recognizes a great thing that you've done like that, right? You can't diminish it. You have to recognize and acknowledge and accept it and thank them. And I'm like, oh crap. Wait, what? You know, like, I'm a miracle worker and now I just got shot with my own words, right? Like, now I have to accept this. And so I kind of leaned into it, but I went, you know, well, it takes longer than 5 minutes. So that's how I leaned into that. It was a reminder to me that, you know, the miracle that happens is what somebody creates for themselves when they're given the space to do that. So that was, in a way, that was an adaptation for me. So other thoughts on adaptations? Yeah,
Alan,
go ahead.
one that to add to your presentation a little bit, one of the things that I've heard is you draw 2 circles, and the one circle is the things that are important. The second circle, and they overlap a little bit, the second circle is the things you can control. The things in the middle are your actions. And don't focus on outcomes, focus on your actions and everything. And so I just add that to your presentation. So
I appreciate that very much. Thanks, Brad. I do oftentimes when I'm working with somebody one-on-one, I'll remind them that they're not responsible for the outcome. They are responsible for the action, right? Just like what you were saying is that you may or may not win that interview, but you are responsible for preparing to the very best of your ability. And you can control that, or controlling your nerves, right? Getting a handle on talking too much. You can control that. You can learn how to do that. That's within your area of control. What that interviewer decides, that you can't control. So yeah, it helps. At least it helped me a lot to realize that in job search. Thank you, Brad. Other comments for the group or thoughts?
Yeah, this is Mike. One thing I learned the hard way back in 2009 when the Great Recession hit and Target did a big layoff, and getting your funnels full and interviewing people and going through it. And I walked into interview at Wells Fargo, and there's another guy from they brought in for a technical part of the team, and he was a guy from Target that I'd worked with before. So it's like, well, this is a shoe-in, no problem. And it was for a contracting position, and I figured stop looking, and then week went by, 2 weeks went by, got hold of the recruiter, and he's like, yep, they're still looking and doing stuff. And probably a month later, they come back and they go, yeah, the money fell through for the position or for the project, and it's like I just wasted a month. So
Yeah.
it's been reiterated here too as I've come back. Keep that full even when you do have those jobs. Interviews are going great. Always have another one waiting because you never know what opportunity will come up or what opportunity won't come up. So, yeah, that's what I had.
Thanks, Mike. I agree. That's activity or action steps are always within our control, and it's an adaptation that we can do. Yeah, Douglas, go ahead.
Sorry, I had some audio issues earlier. I can remember. Well, oh, by the way, today I've had 4 phone interviews, so that's a positive. But I can remember when I worked for Deed back in 2009, 2010, I had clients that had said that they had interviewed with a particular company and then wouldn't look at all for any other jobs because they wanted to be loyal. And what I would explain to people is until you have job offer in hand, there's no loyal. There's no requirement for loyalty, and you can't be. You have to keep going. And I remember we've all heard the term multiple irons in the fire. You really need multiple fires for your irons as well. And so that might even mean you look at those of us who are active duty. I was infantry at one point, and so there's not a lot of need for that type of job skills out here. However, there are many other things that are within the skill sets that we learned active duty that do transfer out here. Now, when I believe Brad had mentioned of the 2 circles, some similar things there are look at all the different things that you've done. And then it's kind of like, it's almost like a T cover letter too, where you take, what skill sets you have and what they mean or other things, because the jargon in the civilian world is a lot different out here. So, but to talk about adaptation, you have to adapt what it is, what we did to make it out here. Like David, he's got some really good possibilities, I think, in coming into being like a quality engineer. With his time in the Air Force, I know that his stuff that he did there can transfer over into what's done in my vocation. So adapting is very important.
I love that. Well, no, and I love that your point about adapting your skills to a new career path, right? And adapting specifically by finding the civilian language that equates to what you did is a critical adaptation. So I like that a lot. Thank you very much, Douglas. Other thoughts or comments about adaptations that are effective in job search?
Well, I mean, Doug set me up, so I gotta jump in now too. It is, and that you guys all said the same thing about coming out of your comfort zone, and that's for me is starting with this meeting, and then networking and meeting new people and taking phone calls. I think, like Tim said, you're like, I don't really want to take this call, but it ends up being like the best call ever. It's happened to me 2 or 3 times. I didn't land, but I mean, they were good experiences. So just following the guidance of people has really been helpful for me, and meeting a lot of great people along the way too. So, yeah.
Love it. Thanks, David. Being open, and I think that's kind of echoing what Tim was saying about being open to changing in the first place, right? That's a critical component of that, that I picked up on that Tim was saying was, and I have occasionally seen that in job seekers where it's like, okay, would you consider, something maybe left of center? Nope. Okay, but maybe that would be something that would be an advancement. Nope. Okay, well, or the other thing that I've seen sometimes is, what job are you looking for? Oh, I'll take anything. Okay, I don't know anything. I don't know anyone. I don't know anywhere, right? Like, there's no way I can introduce you to anything, anyone, anywhere. Like, that just doesn't happen, right? And it tells me that somebody, for whatever reason, hasn't put in the hard work of deciding on a focused path, right? And conversely, right, I'll see, oftentimes it's in the salespeople, they come up with this short sheet of like an introducer document of, what they're looking for, top companies they're targeting, type of role that they're looking for, key strengths or whatever. Like, it's a mini resume almost, right? And they come and they hand that to you right away. And they're like, I'm looking for introductions to companies here, 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 and here, right? Like, okay, I can work with that. Like, I can help, right? But they've already made the decision that they're not going to take anything, anywhere, anyone. They are going to go for something that they deserve. And I've seen those people advance and get a job much more quickly than somebody who's sitting there with anything, anyone, anywhere. So, being willing to change themselves and have the, maybe courage is too strong a word, but being willing to stake their claim to what they want, right? Actually makes the environment and the veteran community come out and help in droves.
One of the greatest things for your mental attitude is developing what I call why-identity. It's why are you wanting the thing that you want, and make it your identity so that you can believe it. And because if you don't believe it up here, it's not going to come out in the interview.
Say a little more about that, Brad. Like, can you give us an example?
Well, it's kind of like developing a purpose. If you don't, it's what you just talked about and everything. If you don't know all of it, here's the companies I want to look at, here's the type of positions I want to look at, the person that you're interviewing with will not, they'll see through that. It'll be written across your forehead. I really don't know what I want, but I'm becoming desperate in this situation that I'm in, out of a job.
Yeah. Yep.
So it is amazing how we project and the frequency that we create in trying to interview, because of all, what everybody's going through without a job is one of the highest in stress points there is out there.
Yeah.
Brad, I like what you said in regards to believing. I think I need to take one step further, right? I think all of us would say, hey, I'd want $1 million paying job, right? I believe that. Trust me, if someone interviewed me, I could look them straight in the face and say, I want $1 million every year, continuously, right? But I'd say take it one step further in the fact, because they're going to go ask, what do they get in return for that, right? What are the skills you're bringing? So I really think that's the adaptation. And even the process really centers you on, it still may be a stretch, right? So let's say you're going from 80,000 to 100,000 or 150,000 to a senior executive role at 200,000. When you go through that process of asking yourself the question of, yeah, what's going to happen in the first 30, 60, 90 days? What's usually a P&L that can hold that? What are you going to be contributing from a leadership standpoint, and how you're going to drive strategy, the company investments, and turn the return, right? If you have answers that and it really fits, you still may miss the mark. The company may be going this way and you're going this way, but I think you'll learn, and that's where kind of the improvisation, I think. So adapt, improvise, and overcome was what Alan said. So the adaptation is really that pre-work. The improvisation is during, right? You're going to extract, just like the FBI in an investigation, you're going to extract information and you improvise your response, you improvise your value. You're not going to move away from the boulders, but you may change just the delivery, how it's applied. Hey, maybe I don't have $1 million answer. However, right, specifically to the question you asked me, but I controlled more than $50 million worth of gear and personnel in my infantry role in the military, right? I mean, you take a Humvee, that's not cheap, and I had to sign for every single one of them, right? You take MRAP, you talk encoded gear, you're talking munitions, right? And oh, by the way, I also had to do all the HR stuff because my people went on vacation, right? So you intertwine those pieces there, and then you just ask them, like, is this any more complicated than getting shot at? Because I've done that, right? Am I going to get shot at on the shop floor? Is something going to fly out of the, something? Because then I can be your safety officer too, right? So, when it's all said and done, like the final thing is the overcome, right? And I think that was probably the toughest in my transition, is that you think you nailed it, right? You're pretty solid. And then you have this, they haven't called you back in 5 minutes, but it feels like 20 years. You're like, I can't believe they just didn't return my call. And literally all you did was get a drink of water after your last call, right? And you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they haven't emailed me yet, right? You got to overcome the anxiety. You also got to, use your network, right, to kind of talk you off the ledge. And just like people are saying, reload for the next one. Because I can tell you for a fact, if you have multiple offers, and this is the way it always happens, it seems like Murphy Law, right? You'll be going through your whole spiel for like 60 days. You'll have multiple interviews. You're like, why aren't they just like giving me $1 million? And then, one day you wake up and you got 5 emails, and for 5 companies wanting to give you $1 million, and you're like, holy smokes! Now I got to go interview them, right?
Yeah.
Well
so,
said.
You tie it all together. There's a lot of pieces there. I think if folks want the details, I'm a big proponent of this group here. They can help you with those, right? And get rock solid in the details, help you adapt that message. If it's less than $1 million, it's usually easier. I'm just saying. But I mean, even if you're going to shoot for the moon, use this group to keep you grounded. And again, there's a lot of folks that if they wouldn't hire you, they'd tell you exactly why, right? They'll throw you zingers, right? Worth $1 million, why you, right? That's the improvisation. And then the overcome is really, if you can sit through this group and then return and help be a coach, I think you've overcome not only your personal challenges, but then you become a mentor, a coach, a Sherpa for somebody else. So I'll stop talking. I know I
Thanks, Les. I agree. I like that a lot. Thank you. Other thoughts about what we can improvise or adapt?
I got to chime back in because what Les said was like amazing, because that's what I've been going through today. I already told Alan this, so I read the entire 20-minute networking book in like one day, and I had my first call with someone, and I used the format, and it literally went to like, well, I know somebody and I know this role. Let me see if I can introduce you. And then it was like amazing. It was such a different, experience. And then I even was like, well, have you heard of the Eagle Group or these 3 things? And he's like, no, I haven't. And so I was like, let me introduce you to Alan. And then, so it was like, it just played out so easy. But the point is that the person that I was supposed to have a call with, hasn't responded to my email from 2 days ago. And like Les was saying, I'm like, oh my God, it's like been a year since I emailed her and she's not emailing me back. What's going on? And it's just to come here and hear this. It's just like, Dave, relax, just chill out. It's only been 2 days. It was New Year's on Saturday. So, but yeah, so I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of folks don't understand kind of what, so not only do they talk to you, then they have to synthesize their notes. There's usually some type of format that HR has to put it back into, or even if it's a hiring manager or hiring executive, right? Because they have to log it. And then they have to go back and look at through the other candidates, and they may not have talked to everybody yet. And then once they do that screening, they usually prioritize. They may have some further questions, or someone may have brought up something that's like, well, I got to go back to that other candidate and see what their response is, just to give them a fair shake. And then even after that, then they take a look at the comp package and see what people requested. You don't know what other people requested. You don't know if you were high, low, middle, or whatever, but they'll go through that pecking order. And then their first candidate is usually who they reach out to, because if they say no, then they go to the second one, right? So the time just gets stacked on every single one of those items. And I think there's some companies that do a better job than that. I think there's some specific hiring managers or executives that do a better job of that, but most aren't. So that's the reality, is like when I'm talking with folks, especially in Eco Group, that I'm help walking them through. And again, I consider myself a Sherpa because I got to carry my pack too, right? I don't just get to sit on the sidelines and watch someone play the game. But I mean, it's what do you fill your time with? Well, good, go get another meeting, because if it doesn't pan out, now you're fresh, right? You're stretched out. You've got the mental, gymnastics going on in your head, and you could probably, with this fortitude, at least knowing that you got one under your belt, go into the next one even be more confident, and then the next one after that more confident. And then literally, like I said, if you do it at a rate that you feel good, you've synthesized your message, and it sounds like you've articulated something that the person can focus in on to help you, well then guess what? You'll be in that predicament where you're going to have multiple offers. And I mean, then you can pick whichever one you want.
Just kind of like keeping up the momentum. And I think Mike Gorin talked about that, and Les mentioned it. I think a couple of people mentioned it so far. And that's exactly what Tim Steiner did. Once he found out that, he did not get the job as a leaver, which I know that's what he really wanted. I said, well, there are other opportunities out there, keep going. And, we talked a lot about, applying for CVSO positions, and just coincidentally, there was a whole bunch that just popped up, all over the state. And so he applied. I think he applied for every single one of them. I think he did. And he had some interviews, and he was waiting to hear back. And I'm like, okay, you're waiting to hear back. There's more. I found a couple more, same position, just different county. And he kept it up. He kept up the momentum. And I think that, that was part of his success. Because you never know, and you can't just sit back and, wait to find out that you didn't get the job. You just got to keep on going.
Thanks, Rebecca.
You're welcome.
I got one thing to piggyback off of what all you all were saying here, and Les, I know you're talking about confidence, and it's funny you said that, because after the second interview I had for the CVSO position in Meeker County, I was talking to my wife on the way back home, and I said, I feel like I could do another interview for another CVSO position right now. I literally was feeling like, okay, let's do it. Let's throw another one at me. Let me do another one, because I felt good about the interview that I just had. So there is something to that. In the sales world, they always tell you, and that's part of my civilian background. They told you if you got a big sale, right, and you closed a big deal, for example, they said, go out and go after some of those customers that you're having struggles with, because you're riding high and you got confidence right now. And people see that. You can't, they see that when you walk in the door, and people respond to it. That's very, very, very true.
The biggest, I would say, beyond some of the templates, some of the books, and some of the real life examples you get from this group, the mock interviews, hands down, is one of the services here that I think this group and the expertise of the folks here is hands down better than any. And it's one of the most scariest I know for folks that are in the job search. The reason being is, I equivalent it to, close quarter breaching in combat, right? And you practice that over and over again. And the first time you get hit with that dummy slug, right, in the chest, you don't want to do it again, right? But you got like at least 19, 30 times that you got to go run back and that the instructor on the other side's done this 1,000 times. So they're going to pelt you right in the face the next time, right? So, but here's the thing. The first time, I hear someone is like, hey, give me your pitch. Give me your elevator speech. Well, I do good. And sometimes I even do gooder, and hope you like me, right? And then the second time they do it, they're like, well, I specialize in coding and I do it gooder, right? And you're like, and then the third time that you're like, hey, go ahead and give me the pitch. Well, I'm a coder. I specifically do this type and yada, yada, yada. And me as a coach, sometimes I'm listening to that and I go, I don't know what specifically that is, but it sounds pretty good, right? And then usually the fourth time, they're like, yeah, I've done this and the particular successes I've had with this. And if your company is looking for this, I can hit the ground running, right? And all it is, and I hate to say it, but it's really 4 times, right? And you hope that they don't go in with their first interview with the first, right? Second or third, maybe because of timing, but usually it's the fourth that they've reached that inflection point, the confidence there, they're starting to get to the point where it's like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. It's like, no, let's not get to the depression side. Go in there, knock it out. And when they do have that good interview, then you're just like, hey, let's just call somebody, right? Go get a hold of some hiring director and just talk to them, right? You already got this one underneath your belt and so forth. And again, once you guys are sharing what you're having, the relevance is the conversations you're having today are the needs of corporations today, and that changes. So when folks in Eagle Group share that experience, everyone else that's looking for a job is actually getting the benefit and the value of what you're sharing today. So again, I think even from my aspect, it's interesting to hear that. And again, that value is being extracted and distributed.